Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese. Together with Karmen Bauer of the Faith Formation Office, we will shed light upon topics of faith in the modern church. Our guests include Catholic clergy, religious sisters, and other experts in their fields to help us understand what's happening in the church today. We will explore issues, even the tough ones, and to find answers to common questions about Catholicism. Thank you for joining us for today's Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, the first podcast for the Diocese of Sioux City, and we are so excited that you are joining us. My name is Dawn Prosser, and I am Director of Communications for the Diocese of Sioux City, and I'm here with my co-host, Karmen Bauer. She is Director of Faith Formation for the Diocese. Thank you for joining me on this venture, Karmen.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It is not something that would have crossed my mind, except when you came to me and you shared with me that you were interested in starting this. So I think that I'm looking forward to working with you on this.
Well, I'm so glad that you said yes, and that only took a bribery of a lunch to make this happen. So I'm very glad to have you join us and bring your expertise to our interviews. It's going to be awesome. So as we said, we're launching our new podcast and dropping a few episodes. So make sure you listen to what we have dropped so far, and then you can keep following us on your favorite platform and see the great slate of guests. We already have a lot of people interested in talking to us and sharing some issues of the faith. And because I've been Catholic for 33 years, because I'm a convert, and you can't know everything. You just can't. So it's wonderful to have these experts come in and help us. Why a podcast? As you probably know, Lumen Media went 100% digital at the end of June of this year, and part of the mix was always going to be a podcast because we have so many people that like this manner of receiving their news because they can be doing something else. We know that you might be on the treadmill right now, you might be in your car, you might be making dinner and doing a little bit of multitasking, but you still want to learn a little bit. And we've seen that in the national statistics, that's growing even beyond getting your news from television. Just in the last year that has grown. So we're offering something that the people are wanting. So please follow all of our episodes.
Oh, definitely. And I've been traveling the diocese. It's so clear that we have so many lay people in our region and of the state of Iowa who really are so curious about learning more about the faith and feeling that connection to the diocese as a whole, to Bishop Nicholas, but also to, their former pastors and other people that they have met along the way. So I think this is a great way of offering, just one more option for folks out there who want to feel connected.
Wonderful. That's exactly the thought. It's an option if you are not somebody that likes to read the news on the phone or on your computer. This is another way to access us, and we do have 24 counties in the diocese, and thankful that we have technology to help connect us.
Awesome. And so the name of our podcast is Illuminating Catholics, and obviously on a practical level, this was a great name because it ties into Lumen Media. But even more so, I think there's a lot to reflect upon in the name for us as we consider our roles in the diocese, and also everybody that we serve in the diocese. This idea of illuminating those of us who are seeking the truth of the faith. Christ is the light of the world, and offering opportunities to grow in knowledge, because through knowledge we can grow in a deeper relationship to Him. But I also think that it's an excellent way to see the light that is occurring in our diocese. There are so many good people, faithful people doing the work of the Lord out there. And I'm really excited to just let that light shine through this medium and to be able to introduce our listeners and people in our pews to the good work that is happening, because as we can shine a light on that good work will only grow, and God willing, God will continue to bring spiritual fruit from those discussions.
I think that we have an unlimited number of stories out there the harvest will be very plentiful.
Definitely. I was looking ahead at, some of our guests who were scheduled, and I was just shocked by how quickly we filled the calendar. I knew how many people we would want to reach out to, but it's been great to hear yeses from individuals who are willing to share their story and share their ministry with us.
And thankfully, because of technology, even if someone isn't, we are based in Sioux City, actually Karmen's in Lamar's, but it's not very far away. But with technology, we'll be able to interview and reach out any number of people. So that's just a gift that we have to be able to contact those people and broadcast it out to all of you.
Yeah, definitely.
So we were visiting before the podcast, and between the two of us, our years of working for the church in different capacities, there's over 45 combined years of serving the church. But I will admit I'm much older than Karmen.
Well, I was going to say, I think 45 years is just a shocking number, considering neither of us are a day over 25. But
that is true. That is very true. So we've wonderfully been able to make some contacts with people and clergy, and learn a few things along the way, but there's always something new to learn. So that's another reason to put out this podcast. We're very excited.
One of the reasons that I think, I was thinking about this invitation to join you on this podcast, and obviously not something that I would ever have anticipated for myself, considering that in kindergarten, my teacher met with my parents during their conferences, and she was concerned that I never really talked. So who would have thought that someday I would be here? But I think what's so neat about this opportunity is that you and I, with our combined years of serving the church, have done so in different areas, communications and faith formation. I also find it so interesting, the backgrounds that led us to our current roles, but in particularly the blessing to be able to serve the Diocese of Sioux City. So Dawn, would you be able to just share a little bit about your background, what brought you to this point in your ministry?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I am a convert to the faith and joined the church in 1993. I grew up Methodist and grew up in southeast Iowa and attended University of Northern Iowa, and then I graduated from the University of Iowa with a bachelor's degree in journalism and mass communication. So I'm still using that. Then later on, I got a master's degree in business administration from Wayne State. Very helpful as you're looking at financial statements and so forth. And I did work for a couple of newspapers early in my career, and then I was hired at Storm Lake St. Mary Parish and School as their development director. So part of that was fundraising and communication, and as time went on, social media, working with alumni, producing newsletters. So that was a wonderful way to learn more about the church as I moved through the parish and the school, and I was very inspired by the holiness and the faithfulness of the people there. I also had a not part of my job, but part of my experience as being a parishioner at St. Mary, being involved in the music program as a choir member in several different choirs and as a song leader, learning about the liturgy. And my office was next to the liturgist. So that was happenstance, but what a wonderful way to learn about the liturgy and the structure. And then I was hired in October 2019 by the bishop to come and take over what was then the Globe newspaper. And in a few months, I also took on the role of director of communication. And as we mentioned, we've had a lot of changes over the years, and now we are 100% digital. So it's wonderful having that background of the parish life and how parish runs, how parishioners view the diocese, how parish and school employees can work with the diocese and get that support. And just taking all that experience, it was just such a blessing to take that and bring it to my position here to help share the good news for the bishop, because we are both here at the request of the bishop to share his message. So that that is my history with my professional background in the church. And now we did move to Sioux City. The hour and 20-minute commute was not exactly fun. Did it for a year and a half, but we are in Sioux City now and parishioners at Cathedral Parish and involved in multiple ministries there. And I'm also on the Finance Council, which was a part of my job in Storm Lake. So now I'm on the other side of things and help with the festival and involved in the music program here.
Oh, awesome. And, I think it's so interesting too, as we, as our lives always progress, to look back and see the hand of God. And, if you look back to where you were right after graduating college, and you saw into the future, would you have ever imagined yourself in this position? And then as you think about that, just the abundant blessings God provides us that we could never anticipate. Do you feel a little bit of sense of that as you consider the role that you play?
Absolutely. I had not joined the church yet when I graduated from college. And again, I was working for a small newspaper in Knoxville, Iowa, my hometown, and then was transferred up to Storm Lake. Wasn't Catholic then. I would never have imagined what was in front of me, but I was just so blessed. And I think God really put me in the place where I needed to be. I met my husband in Storm Lake. We've been married over 32 years. Again, another blessing. And daughter, grandchildren, wonderful friends. And this blessing of this work that we do for the church. It's been challenging, but it's also been very rewarding, and I really do enjoy it. Enjoy coming in every day and see what new thing we can work on, what new people we can meet, and learn more about our faith.
Well, and as you've worked in media for so many years, and, from the time, again, you graduated to all of your experience in the field of journalism, what were your first thoughts when you heard about podcasts?
I was educated in podcasts. I think I'd heard about them vaguely, and then I was helping out with the Bishop's Dinner one year. They were without a development director, so a couple of us came in and were helping with that, and the speaker was Sister Miriam James Heidland, one of these Sisters of Our Lady of the Trinity, wonderful person. Well, at that time I had not heard of her, but I saw that her Twitter handle was One Groovy Nun. I'm like, wow, I like her already. I saw her picture. She was very young, attractive, and just this beautiful smile. I'm like, oh my gosh, she looks so interesting. And they said she had a podcast, Abiding Together. I'm like, oh, what exactly is a podcast? I think if I'm going to help promote this dinner, I need to figure out who she is and what this podcast thing is. So I remember getting on my phone. We were in a hotel room somewhere, and I'm trying to figure out how do you get to a podcast. So I think I just found a website link and then listened. And I became a regular listener of hers and the two women with her for Abiding Together. And, of course, picked up some other podcasts along the way. And it is a great thing to do when you're doing something else. I would getting ready in the morning and have my phone sitting there and listen to her Busted Halo. I'll listen to some true crime stuff. There's an unlimited number of topics. So yeah, it all started with Sister Miriam, who I actually got to meet when she came for the dinner, and she's as lovely and delightful as what you hear on her podcast.
Well, I would believe that, and I can only imagine the first experience with a podcast being Abiding Together. I mean, that is, you can't get better than what they offer through those conversations, and what a great one to be introduced to for the first time.
Yes, highly recommended. Highly recommended. So Karmen, I'm going to turn the tables on you. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into ministry with the diocese and how you got here.
Yeah, so I grew up in central Iowa in Polk City back when it was much smaller of a town. All of central Iowa has definitely grown since I grew up there. I grew up in a Catholic family. My dad was not Catholic until after my parents were married. And in fact, I have a shadow of a memory of his baptism. And after he was baptized, I remember the culture of our family being, we would pray the rosary and we would travel to Catholic conferences. And so the seeds of being involved in the church were planted really young. I remember before I started school, helping my mom clean the church with this old woman named Phyllis, who thought my name was Carmel. And so, it was always a part of my life. And as I grew up, I went to public school. We didn't have access to a Catholic school. And as I entered high school, I had an increasing amount of opportunities to explain the Catholic faith to other people. I was really unaware until high school how strongly some people feel who are non-Catholic towards the Catholic Church. And that was always really difficult for me because I just had no idea that there was all this controversy. And so it's through those conversations and through those classmates of mine where I started to read, Scott Hahn books as a 14-year-old. I was obviously very cool.
Yes.
And
Yes, you were.
I was just very curious, and I went on a Steubenville conference. And although I had lived my faith, going to Mass every Sunday, that I did have a profound experience of an encounter with Christ at that conference. And I always thought I would go to Franciscan for college, and then I discovered Benedictine college down in Kansas. So I'm a little bit of a homebody. I don't like being that far from family, so that was a great option. I studied theology and philosophy there, mostly because I was curious about it. I tried other majors because I knew how impractical it was, but I just kept getting drawn back into those two topics. And I thought, gosh, I'm going to be a theology major and a philosophy major, and I just hope I never have to be a DRE at a parish. So I don't, it's so funny because I'm like, that just seems like so much work. And since then, I was offered my first job in Sioux City. After college, I was very thrilled to be just in the state of Iowa. And it was actually with the diocese. They took a chance on me, not really having much. I knew a lot. You always think you know a lot when you graduate college. But they really took a chance on me. And I worked here for, 4 years, working with totus tuus and a little bit with marriage preparation. And then once I started my family, I was able to work at the Cathedral of the Epiphany. So the cathedral holds a very special place in my heart. It's where both of my children were baptized, very much a part of our family culture. But because I grew up in a smaller town, I always had this desire to, move a little bit farther out from Sioux City. So I was able to accept a job up at All Saints, being the DRE, in 2019. And my goodness, I just fell in love with those families. And it is a challenging role, but I'm so happy I had that experience because it really, when the door opened for me to come back down to work for the Diocese of Sioux City, that experience was invaluable, both from there and the cathedral. I think it gave me a lot of what I needed to be a better service of our parishes and our parish staff.
I think your relation to the DREs in the diocese is so special because you've walked in those shoes.
Yes, and it's a job, and I don't even have the number of years of experience as so many of the men and women in our diocese who serve in that role, but it's not a job that a lot of people think to say thank you to, so it's been very important for me to demonstrate our gratitude for all that they do. There's very much a spiritual role of, when you're assisting people and walking alongside them, preparing for the sacraments and helping families grow in the faith. And there can be so many consolations in that, but it also can be a challenging job. So we're always doing our best to really offer what we can, the support we can to those people in our parishes.
And they deserve it, and everyone should go out and thank their parish DREs
Yes.
and all of your catechists.
And bring them a coffee.
Bring them a coffee at this time. So I shared my story of being totally ignorant about podcasts. I knew your reputation that you were always very techie and knew about technology. So can you share with us your history, viewpoint with podcasts now that you have one?
So I'm a millennial, and I feel like podcasts came, they kind of grew alongside my generation, so I have that going for me. I think a lot of times in my job, I will hear a lot of speakers or listen to lots of videos for adult faith formation. And so on my personal time, my podcast tendencies tend more towards history. My poor friends, because I will listen to like an 8-part series on the French Revolution or on, recently on the Roman conquering of Britain. And then for the next week, my friends have to hear about all the interesting facts I learned. So I really am a sucker for the long form podcasts, especially because I do a lot of driving with my job, a lot of traveling, and I just find it so fascinating to learn more about history. And I think what I love about it is then putting the church history into the context. Every time I learn more even about secular history, I can think, oh, that makes sense. Or, of course, this saint was perfect for this time because they were, standing firm with the faith against, other situations in the world. So my friends just dread whenever I tell them I'm starting a new podcast, but I do love them. I think it's so interesting to learn more about not only the places of history, the times of history, but also the people and the important figures. So that is where I come from with podcasts, is I spend a lot of time on those. A little bit of a nerd, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, you listen to some intellectual ones where I'm listening to Dateline.
Oh, I get those updates from my sister.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
Oh, no, I would. If I wasn't, I'm a scaredy cat. That's my problem. So I have to be able to sleep through the night.
Well, what I had just covered the Called Youth Conference, the regional youth conference up in Granville, as we're recording it today, that it was a couple weeks ago. And Father Crotty, who's our director of vocations, had a beautiful statement that I really thought about, especially as we do this work, to communicate out what the church teaches and why you would want to listen to us or someone else or read more about it. He talked about being intentional during the conference. And he says, I want you to be intentional because the people that brought you here really want you to have this experience and think about what the speakers are saying when you go to the different sessions. And I want you to grow in your relationship with Christ, with your encounter with Christ, because a life with a relationship with Christ is better than one without. What a beautiful way for Karmen and I to think about what we want to do for our listeners. If our guests say something that touches you and helps you build your relationship or develop your relationship with Christ, because it's better, your life is better with that. And I hope we can do some of that for you.
Oh, amen. And I think it's also so important for us to remember the way he works in our lives in the here and now. The Holy Spirit isn't just with Pope Francis over in the Vatican. He is working in our lives in Northwest Iowa. And when we encounter him at our masses with the wonderful priests of our diocese. And I think it just to build our relationship with Christ, but also just to, look around us and see that beautiful work that he is doing with his hands in our area is also going to be hopefully inspiring to us all.
There is so much going on in the church and in our diocese, and we are so blessed to have experts and people with experience and insight and education that can help maybe break down some topics for us or share with us events that have just happened or coming up. I'm just really excited about everything that we have coming up.
Oh, and I'm thrilled as, my department, we travel a lot and meet a lot of people, and oh my goodness, I'm so excited as we've reached out to, let them show what they've done, through their faithfulness and their trust in God. So I'm very thrilled to be able to pull some people into the conversation who might not have a lot of recognition or might not have a platform of their own. And there are just some incredible people out there. So I'm very excited to be able to expose others in our diocese to what's happening.
One of your contacts that helps with Catholic Passage podcast for parents and people forming children in the faith. Aaron Lorch has been so helpful getting our equipment and getting things set up. So I do want to give a shout out, and that's because Carmen's contact with him. So that was so helpful. I also want to note that we are funded in part by Together as One, the diocesan annual appeal, because I saw the importance of continuing various ways of communicating the good news out to the diocese. So now you kind of know who we are, why we're doing this, and why we want to bring Illuminating Catholics, helping you grow in your faith.
Definitely. And I just thank you for your time and listening to us. And, we just really pray that God can use this as an instrument to work in your lives and in just in the diocese as a whole.
Thanks so much, Karmen. Thank you all for following us. And we really cannot wait to share our upcoming episodes with you. So do follow us. There's a lot of great things coming up. Have a blessed day.
God bless.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Follow us for more episodes on topics of the Catholic faith. For more diocesan news, visit lumenmedia.org.